Hello again, everyone. Welcome to our monthly webinar. My name is Leslie Balser, and I'm a customer in Litera Microsystems. Today's webinar, we're asking the question, is your data secure? There continue to be strategies like data loss prevention, DLP, and regulations like GDPR that are put in place to help avoid security issues. Here at Litera Microsystems, we understand the importance of striking a balance between security and convenience at your firm in the world of ever-increasing data threats. Presenting on the topic today is Mike Plum, who's a manager of customer engagement and adoption, and Jack Nagrotsky, who is a manager on the sales engineering team. Mike has more than 15 years of experience in legal technology with a background in technical writing and training and project management, and has a strong understanding of the issues that can occur when creating complex documents in Microsoft Word. He also leads the customer enablement initiatives at Litera Microsystems, including our webinars, training, as well as adoption resources. Jack has 5 years of legal IT experience and primarily spends his time showcasing legal technology to IT and user experience teams. He understands the balance of technical components as well as the front-end usability. We always love your feedback and welcome it on our various webinar topics. Let us know how we did and if you thought this topic was relevant. We'll provide a short survey at the end to get your thoughts. And if you have any questions during this session, please enter them in the questions window and we'll answer as many as we can during the Q&A. The ones that we don't answer, we'll get to at a later time. If you missed a previous session, all of our past webinars are on YouTube. You can and type in Litera Microsystems. And with that, I'll pass you over to Mike to begin the webinar.
Okay, thanks a lot, Leslie. So as she said, today we're going to talk a little bit different topic from what we typically do with the Litera Learning series, but we'll definitely bring it in home a little bit, talking about some of the products that show some data loss prevention characteristics, but we'll also kind of do maybe some process things around what firms maybe can do or put in place to help with DLP. So I'll handle that part of it today, kind of some of the things maybe what a firm could be doing and putting in place. And then Jack will handle some of the demo pieces for the products. Okay, so everyone's worried about data security. So why is that? And, is it really everyone, I guess? So our research from our 2018 Changing Lawyer publication, if you're familiar with that, saw that about 42% of all law firms say that data security is really the greatest risk they're currently facing. If you throw in another 28%, they say that regulation is their greatest risk. So therefore, firms are demanding for and really they're attempting to develop new ways to manage and protect data. Now, when we speak of data security, we're really speaking of both the malicious attacks, the type that are typically perpetrated by outside sources for either profit or mischief, and then some of those accidental data losses. Those are typically stemming from inside sources due to mainly people not following a process or procedure or doing something as simple as clicking on an email that they shouldn't have. If you add in the fact that users are also working from remote locations, and that's more the norm than the exception, it's continuously harder and harder to keep data secure. So this puts added pressure on firms to not only keep up with the new cases and trends in the legal world, but also now they need to be up to speed with relevant risks and benefits with new technologies. Being up to date with the law was the main way to gain a client's trust in the past, but now that's not enough. Now we need to make sure that there's sensitive data is safe and secure at all times. It's as simple as an inadvertent click could literally destroy your trusted reputation in seconds. So with all this being said, firms cannot simply inundate processes and regulations and new technologies on their users. Information still needs to be accessible from any location, and it still needs to be protected. So we have to kind of strike that balance. There needs to be that balance between convenience and data security. And some items must be put in place to help drive this success. So for example, one thing that a firm can do is just kind of really build a culture around compliance and stress the importance thereof. So what would this include? So one thing, it's as simple as updating your software. The main reason for downloading and installing the latest updates is to stay protected from security threats. Older software still has the same bugs, same exploitable holes that allow hackers and cyber criminals to access them. Also, that makes your sensitive documents at risk. If a hacker finds a loophole in your security, now suddenly they may have access to everything in your network or your DMS, including your client documents. Also, depending upon the firm, auto updates might have been disabled, either by policy or by hackers. And in some instances, it's really on the user to run their updates in a timely manner to make sure that their machines are up to speed with the latest versions. It's also important to close any potential risks that the firm has. If you just do a simple search on the internet, you're going to get back tons and tons of posts regarding potential risks out there. Articles like 10 common fire flaws, or how to control API risks, or 11 new network security threats. There's all kinds of them out there. And some of these things you can do are just common sense. For example, more robust passwords. Don't have your password be set to the default or too simple, or don't use the same one for every access point. Many firms are now moving to two-factor authentication too, where even your password has to be more robust. If you have weak protection on your SQL database, or people can easily access your firewalls or API loopholes, the list goes on where the different points of failure can be. These all need to be vigilantly reviewed and monitored and managed to ensure your data is safe. The cliche of you're only as strong as your weakest link really rings true here. Another good piece of your compliance structure would just be using VPNs, a virtual private network. Really, it's imperative that it's in place when users at the firm are working remotely and accessing a firm network. It's basically a secure channel between your user and the network, unlike, for example, an unsecure coffee shop or airport that has public Wi-Fi, where hackers could potentially be monitoring the traffic and easily access your machine due to low security requirements. Security is really no longer just an IT issue. It's also affects the entire business, and everyone has to play their part. Firms are building cybersecurity into all of their processes, and this can really include things like updating policies to supplier reviews, cyber planning exercises, and firm-wide training, etc. In fact, even we here at Litera Microsystems, we've gone through numerous trainings and exercises on this topic to ensure a safe environment for our data and our clients. Another thing that can be done to help protect your data is to really assign owners to the different types of data that are stored at the firm. Many firms identify an owner for every piece of client data held at the firm. So someone or some group that has responsibility for the safety of that data and the processes and the procedures that go with it. And in conjunction, all the staff then must be trained to understand those core principles of data security. And more importantly, they need to be incorporated into their day-to-day business lives. So there's a lot of tools and things out on the market, and there was a webinar last week where there was covered a lot of that we have that you could access. But just the fact that many firms are purchasing and deploying some of the top systems to help us work at safer and smarter. And as I just mentioned before, even if you have these, you need to make sure that the software updates are in place so that the system is up to date. Throw into the mix the fact that there's AI out there now as the next wave, where machines start to learn of the vulnerabilities and act upon them proactively. But of course, that human element will always be important. Without the human intervention piece and appropriate checks and balances being implemented, an AI response to a threat could fall by the wayside or take us down the path of creating even potentially new vulnerabilities. So how is Litera Microsystems kind of playing their part in helping clients go down this path of security? So it's a very important topic that really all the software vendors are handling, and it's one that we've addressed internally, and like I said, on a number of occasions to ensure protecting our data. But in addition, we do have these products that proactively help our clients with accidentally sharing of information. So the two products that really kind of play a part in there are Metadata and SmartSend. So Metadata is a metadata cleaning tool that we have. Metadata, it can clean it from your files on your disk drive or your DMS, or when you're sending an attachment in an email. Metadata is any information that can be hidden in a document, that could be hidden in a picture or a spreadsheet or a slide that could potentially be extracted from the file and used as a security breach. Metadata will help remove that information, and Jack will show you in a minute kind of how that works, and it can be worked in a very passive way to, again, strike that balance between data protection and ease of use for the user. The other product that we have that helps in this regard is a product called SmartSend. So SmartSend is an application we have that is designed to reduce the risk of making costly mistakes in email, either when you're sending or replying to or forwarding an email message. It also handles things like efficient management of email attachments prior to sending. So from a BCC security point of view, for example, if you click on reply all or forward when you're viewing a message which has been BCC sent to you, you can set it up so a message will display and it'll give you a chance to change your mind, so you're not replying all to someone you don't know. We can also disable autocomplete. I wish I had this on my machine actually last week, because I almost did this. By default, when you attempt to enter an email address in the two CC or BCC fields, when you're writing that new email message, Outlook displays a list of the addresses you can select from your sent email history in the contact list. However, this can be disabled, allowing you to manually enter the address. So if you start typing a name that's very similar to someone else's and it auto completes for you, it could have turned out to be the wrong person, wrong client. You don't want to send confidential information from one client to another's. Message thread alerts. These are alerts that can be enabled when attempting to reply all, or forward a long message thread. And that can be kind of designated by the number of replies long, because again, if there's a long thread, who knows how many times that message has been forwarded, etc. And all the information in there could be of privilege. And then the last kind of feature that I'll mention is the attorney-client privilege communications. So attorney-client privilege communication automatically will CC your attorney or general counsel and place a banner at the top of each outgoing message marked with an attorney-client privilege. So that's another nice feature there. So those are kind of some of the, at a high level, again, this is a short webinar, so it's sort of simplistic, but some of the high level things you can put into place. But now what I'd like to do is just throw it over to Jack so that he can show a couple of things I just talked about around the Metadata piece of software and around the SmartSend piece of software. So Jack, if you want to take it away with the demo piece.
Thanks, Mike. So the couple things that, like Mike said, that I'll talk about are SmartSend and Metadata, and I'm going to talk about a SmartSend here first, and kind of how I use it in my day-to-day life. Whenever you are writing emails, it's one of the more important workflows that you have to do, and there's always that fine line you have to walk of making sure you have the right security or accountability in place to make sure you're sending to the appropriate parties, not replying all to a huge chain that possibly could have internal or confidential information in there, and just making your life a little bit more comfortable when sending emails. I send from a lot of different mailboxes. I'm on a lot of different chains with both external and internal people. And having that extra layer for me allows me to have a lot more confidence in the emails I'm sending out, to making sure they're going to the appropriate parties. So the first thing we'll take a look at here is just some of the settings and alerting that you can get with SmartSend. So Mike mentioned a bunch of these options that you have the ability to turn on. And the big one I always love to talk about is the autocomplete one, because with the amount of people that I talk to on a day-to-day basis, if I were to turn autocomplete on, that would make my life a little bit more complicated than I would like it to be. But in my day-to-day workflow, I have a few alerts that I keep turned on to make sure that I'm appropriately sending to the correct people, whether that's a message that has external recipients in it. When the thread gets, as Mike said, longer than 8 messages, I'll get alerted, because that allows me to go back and investigate the email a little bit. Is everything in here appropriate for the parties I'm working with? And is it appropriate to send out? And you also have some more ability from a distribution list or even email domain area, where you can set those up to have your users alerted to them. So the example I use here is just a Gmail address to show how this would prompt and how it would alert me. But this is great to use for certain domains that you really don't want to, you really want to double check what the content of the email is that you're sending before actually getting that email out the door. So what I am going to do now is show a little bit of the functionality of SmartSend, and then I'll touch on Metadata as well. But what I have here is an email with a couple recipients, an external and internal recipient. And I'm just going to go ahead and click reply all on this. And what you'll notice is that SmartSend kicks in right away, goes, hey, did you know there's some external recipients on there? Are you sure you want to go ahead and send it? Again, with the option of reply all if you need to. And once that's confirmed, once you've done that, you can go ahead and attach the email, the attachments you need for the email. And in this case, that's where I'll come in and kind of talk about metadata as I click send here. But what you'll notice is that as I go through and attach the email, maybe this is, I want this to be some attorney-client privileged information as well. When I do that, it'll add the banner in text up at the top, so that way you know that it's privileged information. And you can even set this up to allow certain parties to be alerted that you're sending emails as well. So if there's a group that you're working with, whenever you send these type of privileged information, you can, once you check this checkbox, it'll also CC other parties as well to make sure everybody has the same information, and make sure everybody's understanding the emails that are going on here. So there's always that fine line that you have to walk with making sure you have the appropriate solutions in place without interrupting the workflow. And I really think that's where SmartSend and Metadata play. So once I click send here, I have an attachment on my email, and I'm going to get alerted about some specific types of metadata that are in the document. So this is very beneficial for the fact of, maybe you're pulling some prior work product that you have from your DMS or stored locally on your system, and you're trying to get it out the door to an external party. And if you didn't have the chance to review the document or take a look in detail as to what's inside the document as far as content perspective, metadata can help alert you to some of those pieces of metadata that could be sensitive in nature that you definitely need to address or take a look at. So this kind of helps you in 2 different ways. It allows you to make some deviations or make some choices based on the parties you're working with. So whether I have track changes or comments in my document, I have the power to accept them, reject them, leave them. Same with comments. And this works across the board for Excel, PowerPoint, and along with PDFs. So I can make the appropriate decision and send this out the door. Or if this is something I may need more context in, I can cancel out of it and actually go investigate the document to get a better understanding of the risk or the sensitive nature of the information that I'm sending out the door. And then it's, once I click OK, it's going to go ahead and clean it, send it out the door. And it gives me that confidence that there's going to be no sensitive information that's in there that I would have to be concerned about. And it goes to show you as well that just giving you an extra layer to make sure you're, again, sending to the intended recipient. So like I said, I had that Gmail domain set up so I can alert myself. And once I send it, I will, it'll go out the door. It's cleaned on the server. So no matter where you're kind of sending emails from, you're confident that your information is always protected. Now, just to dive into a little bit more information of Metadata as well, and the sensitive nature of information that can be in there, whether you're in Outlook or trying to understand more about what types of metadata are in your emails, you have the ability to run a report. So if I have an attachment on my email, I can click this Analyze Metadata button in Outlook, which will give me this nice report, giving me more information about the types of the nature of the content that's in the document. So like the example I gave, I attached an email, I got prompted, I go, wait, what, maybe I need to dive into what types of metadata are in here, what information's in this document. So you can drill down into the specific types of metadata if you needed to, and even see something like the track changes or comments that are in the document to understand what those actually are. So maybe you don't have the time to look in the document, you can quickly come to the report, see those comments, see those track changes that are in there to understand, is this document okay to send to the parties I need to? And really with those two solutions and all the conversations that I have when I get in front of user groups or IT departments at firms, they're always trying to find that right solution that's not going to interrupt the workflow, but is also going to give them an extra layer of security to make sure the users understand and the types of people they're working with, the emails they're sending to, and along with the metadata that's in the files they're sending out. So really, that's where Litera Microsystems plays in that sensitive data area. And I hope this gave you some more insight on what we're doing from our perspective and the conversations we're having and what we're hearing from the world out there. And with that, I will pass it back over to Mike.
All right, thanks a lot, Jack. I appreciate it. And obviously, with a lot of the stuff that Jack is showing too, he's showing all of the pop-ups popping up at all times, just so that you can see what's going to go on. But that's all going to be highly configurable, so that we're not going to interrupt the workflows and make it as simple as possible.
Exactly.
So I'm gonna we had a few questions that came in, so I'm going to take a second and we're going to take a look at those. But just so you know, our next webinar is going to be at the end of March. We're going to continue our kind of our partition series of Forte. So we're going to do Forte Part 3. I think it's going to be geared more towards litigation practices. So if you have Forte with litigation practices, that might be interesting to you. And again, for more resources, you can find things on YouTube or our Litera Microsystems for old webinars, and you can always reach us at these different places as well. So I'm going to take 1 second, look at a couple questions, and then we'll get back on them. If I don't answer your question, I promise I will get back to you after the fact. All right, so I think we have time for a couple questions, and a couple came in mostly around the products, so we'll answer those. So from a Metadata point of view, there was a question about just, can users create their own cleaning profiles? So yes, they can be given the ability to do this through the admin piece if you'd like them to really kind of control the metadata that they send out. Also, there's another question about just the options on the ribbon. Can those be controlled? And yes, you do have control over what you want to give your end users from a feature point of view. You can make it as simple as you want, or as detailed, just kind of depending on the different types of metadata that's in the office. From a smart send point of view, there was a question around pop-up warnings. It's instead of a pop-up warning for the Smart Send and Outlook like Jack had showed, there was a question about, can it be displayed as a banner similar to the Outlook mail tips? Currently, no. It's definitely something that's in the discussions on the roadmap, but it's not a current feature in the product right now. But that's something that's definitely being talked internally and will be looked at for a future release. Last question that I had here too. There is another SmartSend question. That one I'm going to have to follow up with that one. So I'm going to get back to that person that asked me that. And then there was a question, just a DLP question in general, just about who ultimately is responsible for a firm's DLP strategy. It depends. I mean, typically there's either a security team or there could be a risk management committee, but really at the end of the day, it's IT. IT needs to maintain those policies, and in fact, if there's no policies in place, it's really kind of going to be up to IT to develop those policies and administer to them. So with that, I think we're going to stop. I hope this was beneficial to everyone. This recording will be published on YouTube and our website, and hope to see you in a future webinar. Otherwise, have a great day. Take care. Bye, everyone.